What's up, everyone? Let's get started. You need a trash can, like I use a paper bag. Gonna get a little messy. Crowbar or some piece of metal, channel lock, and a wire cutter, and a chisel or something flat, just scrapes. Some glue, Loctite 3-ply premium, and you need a caulking gun and some metal wire. I think this is like 14 gauge, not quite sure. And some gloves, gonna be messy. So let's get started. So today we're gonna tackle on some sinks that I got that the epoxy holding the sink tub came apart. So I think the person that did this right here, either he didn't clean up the surface or the glue is not mixed properly. But overall, I think he did a crappy job on it. Let's go ahead and remove stuff out of the way. First, you gotta remove the drain connections, and there's also a linkage connected to the sink as well. Uh, take them out, so this way I can get the sink out of there and see what I'm dealing with. Let's take it outside so I can remove the epoxy of the porcelain sink. In certain area the epoxy is very thick and it's stuck on real good, and certain areas real thin and it came right off when I use a chisel on it. I take out as much as I could, try not to use too much force. I don't want to break the sink. Let's bring it back inside and go from there. And I went ahead and I cleaned the bottom of the countertop. I also took a chisel and remove any leftover epoxy. I want to make sure the bottom of the countertop is clean to make sure the glue stick to it. And I just went ahead and fed the wire through the drain. You can do this anytime. Next, I'm gonna put lots of glue around the edges of the sink. And the next step is to go ahead and reinstall the sink. You only need one person to do this job here. Now carefully set the sink in place. Right now, because the glue is wet, you don't need to place it exactly where it's supposed to be. You can still move it. Go ahead and take that wooden block and feed it through the metal wires on the bottom. Now go ahead and from the top, grab onto the wires and pull it up. This will keep the sink from falling down. And go ahead and feed the, I'm using a metal pipe. Go ahead and wrap the metal wires around it and go ahead and tighten it down a little bit. So now it's supported. With the plier and snip off any excess wire, make it easy to work with, and go ahead and give a few twists to put more tensions on the wire, causing the sink to rise upward to meet with the countertop. Go ahead and make the necessary adjustment as needed. You can move forwards and backwards and or side to side, and make sure the is center. And when that is done, I'm using a chisel right here. I'm gonna put it between the wire and twist it, and this will cause tensions and pull the sink upward. Keep this in mind. The drain where the metal wire is being fed through is located on one side. As you tighten the metal wire, that side will tend to pull up more than the opposite side. So make appropriate adjustment as needed so the sink will be evenly pressed to the countertop. And continue make adjustment as needed. You can still move the sink and wipe up any excess glue, and also verify, make sure there's no gap between the sink and the countertop. If there is some gaps in there, and go ahead and add some more glue and wipe up the excess. Now the first one is done, and gonna leave it here to dry for a few days. Let's go on to sink number 2. It's being propped up by a couple pieces of blocks, and let's go ahead and remove the drain connection. Some of them are tight. That's where the channel lock comes in handy. Have a container on the bottom to catch any water coming out from the drain. As you can tell earlier, I made a little mess on the first sink I worked on. While you're at it, go ahead and remove the linkage to connect to the plunger to stop the water. Take that out. Okay, now the sink is removed. As you can see, the glue is not going to stick onto the porcelain sink. It's all flaking off. I'm going to take this sink outside and remove all the epoxy, and I'll be right back. Once again, let's go ahead and clean the bottom of the countertop and chisel out any left epoxy, and I was able to remove all the old glue off of there. Now let's go ahead and reapply new glue, and so we go together. Fixing the first sink was try and error. Now the second sink is a lot easier since I know the steps. I guess I made a little mess when I put the sink in. I got some of the glue onto the wooden panel on the bottom. Now go ahead and put that wooden block through the metal wire. Now you can pull the sink up and do the same process, and tighten it and snip up any wires. Go ahead and make any adjustment that's needed. Tighten the metal wire so the sink will fit properly. Go ahead and wipe up any excess glue. Continue to check and make sure the sink is properly glued together. Go ahead and take a closer look. Make sure there's no gap or hole or any missing glue in there between the sink and the countertop. If there's a gap in there, water can get in there and cause damage to the glue and make it fail sooner. I think that's what happened to the prior installation. Now I have completed both jobs, and now we just wait for a couple of days for the glue to dry. So if you like this kind of video, please subscribe and click the like button, and see you next time.